And so here it is. Finally, we've gone through the 1,000-mile run-in barrier. The car has gone for its run-in service where they change the fluids. The car arrives with run-in fluids. Literally the viscosity of the transmission fluid is different to that which is inside it right now. And that's all to do with a mechanically sympathetic run-in procedure where, by and large, you keep the revs slow and you rely on that effortless bed of relentless torque. But now,
we're beginning the M3 Touring drive in Strasbourg from the Les Harras Hotel, a former royal stud farm ideally placed for its proximity to Bugatti and great driving roads. It's a destination disclosed to us by Tablet Hotels, with of course culinary punctuation en route provided via the Michelin Guide. Both of these solutions specialize in unearthing beautiful and boutique experiences throughout the world and have simply made planning this week's road trip all the more of a discerning adventure.
oh, well now we can use it all, torque and revs. So top line, if you're familiar with the M3 Touring, you'll know what we've got, but for those who may not be, 500 horsepower from a 3-litre straight-six twin turbocharged engine. Now, one of the things that, frankly, I've been a little bit snobbish about over the years is gearboxes. I've never really been a fan of a more conventional automatic box when it comes to performance cars. Now, this is a sort of a funny hybrid of those things because, yes, while it is, and honestly, it is a properly fast bit of kit, it's also a properly practical bit of kit as well. We've been on this road trip now for the last 4 days. We started in Zurich, and along the way it has carried multiple people's bags. It has acted as a tracking car for our camera crew, a support car. It's had the radios in it, it's had food and snacks in it, it's had all sorts of things inside it while setting pace for the likes of a 992 GT3. Now, of course, we're not here to set any lap times. We are ultimately driving a road car on a very sensible road trip. But the fact is, this thing does all of that and never holds anyone up. And when you're on a great flow, on a great road, with great drivers and great cars, this thing just settles in and fits in perfectly. And I think really that is testament to just how well BMW have developed this platform. So going back to the gearbox, yes, it's not a dual clutch box, it's not quite as snappy, but there's been very few times where I'm like, I wish on that particular upshift or downshift, and that's really where DCTs come into their own, that I've wished for a DCT box. The calibration now is damn near there, which is really impressive. And honestly, for 90% of use cases, the calibration of this conventional auto 8-speed box, they've absolutely nailed it. Now, the cool thing I found is actually the adjustability, and this is maybe a boring topic, but the adjustability of the driving position. Now, we are on a tour with our insurance partners, Chubb, and the beauty of that is that the policy allows us to give the keys to anybody on this trip to drive any of these cars, which I particularly love. It's one of the unique points and one of the reasons really that we ultimately ended up insuring the whole fleet with Chubb. But the reason being is I can share all of these cars and driving experiences, and importantly, the debrief at dinner overnight as to which one everyone prefers with all of my friends here. Going back to the driving position, the endless adjustability of these seats, when you get in them at first, they do feel quite focused. We did opt for the carbon-backed sports seats, which at first sit, you're like, for a touring car, these might be a tad focused. This is the first time that I can remember in a car in a long time where I actually raise the seat height up, because the adjustability, if I jack this all the way down now, the ride height, I'm actually maybe sat a smidge too low. Now, we have a guy called Chris on this trip. He's from Chubb, Switzerland. He's about 6'4". And when Chris gets in it, he slams it right down, and he's saying the driving position in this is so spot on, which for him is rare. And then we've got Rich, who is not 6'4", and he gets in it and has a perfect driving position too. Steering rack, excellent extension on it. yeah, a cracking all-rounder, and these are the subtle details which often gets overlooked on driver-focused cars. So, well done BMW on your ergonomics, it hasn't gone overlooked. And then there's the brakes. Now, I didn't spec the carbon ceramics, mostly because I thought, I don't know how swift I'm ultimately going to end up going in this car for a sustained period of time. We've been flashing it through the Alps, and there's been moments where, maybe it's more of a psychological thing, there's been moments where I'm thinking, any more of this, and I probably could do with a set of carbons. Not that the brakes have got like a long travel to them, but you can definitely feel there is sort of 20% fatigue that you probably wouldn't get in a carbon ceramic. But if you back it off a notch and keep that flow with the air flowing, it's okay. Carbon ceramics, very expensive option, sheds a bit of weight. Let's see, I'll probably have to check back with you on that one long term to see if I'd have wished I'd have gone for the carbons. I think so far, the biggest perk of having carbons is probably the lack of brake dust down the side of the car. Other than that, it's been great. Now, engine, as I mentioned, 500 horsepower, bags of torque. It's not a particularly characterful engine in terms of sound. That's about as fruity as it gets, really. I'm not sure if it's because I'm spoiled because I've been in a JCR piped 991 Gen 2 GT3 for the last few days. Or it's just a little bit muted. It's not an exciting engine tone. That being said, when you get on it, the way this thing covers ground, that does take your attention away from the fact that it's not perhaps audibly exciting. Now, you could definitely improve that with an exhaust in terms of overall tone, but the engine's the engine and it just doesn't sound that exciting. But again, we have to remember what this platform is. It's very much a daily driver, and I can't believe what I just saw, but a matching spec M3 Touring just went that way. Hopefully we've got it on the tracking car in front. That was freaky. Right then, handling, turning, historically, BMWs, understeering. This has been great. You do have to carry a little bit more braking into a corner to keep the weight over the front end, just to help press those tires in. But they've definitely done a much better job of chassis composure. The damping is brilliant. But considering that it's a fairly heavy car, particularly full of bags, full tank of fuel, this thing's, you know, heading up over 1,800 kilograms, but it disguises its weight really well. It's a fantastic thing to get a flow on with. The damping's awesome. And sometimes I'm following the GT3 and you can see it's a stiffer sprung car and it doesn't quite deal with the undulations quite as well as this, surprisingly, until you get to a braking point and a corner, and then obviously the GT3's gone. So in the UK, we actually only get the M3 as a competition X-Drive. There's no such thing in the UK as a non-comp spec M3 Touring, which is fine by me. But despite all that torque, despite all that horsepower, the X-Drive, it just puts down massive traction. Now, we aren't in the wet today, but when we started in Zurich, we got a fresh set of Michelin cups on this car, and it started snowing. The beginning of our trip dumped it down with snow. It's at that moment that you realize what a broad spectrum of ability this car has. Right now, threading it with GT3s, and then when it snows, you're feeling smug. Let's just put it that way. But really, while we all associate M cars with performance, the beauty of the Touring is that it realistically, let's not pretend, it appeals to 90% of our use case, which is the daily driver stuff, which is when I take it out of M mode, it goes into auto, and you just swan along and chill, like this. Now, the fact is, this is a school run car, this is a dog car. This is taking it to the park with bikes on a roof rack car. And I think that is the inherent interest in it. It's hard to explain to a non-petrol head why you need a fast, practical car. Because on the one hand, when you're not using it as a practical car, you could argue that actually it's kind of compromised because it's inherently a little bit heavier. And then when it is acting as a practical car, you're not actually driving it that fast because you might have bikes on the roof or other people in the car. You might be on a school run. But right now, as I sit on my own in this thing with the luggage of several other people in the back, this is its nuance. This is its sweet spot. The fast, practical touring support car. It was made for the channel, really. That's why I really like it, and I'm so thankful that we managed to get our hands on one. And really at this stage, I'd love to hear from you. The car is about to go through somewhat of a, let's just call it an aesthetic transformation. More on that soon. But what do you want to see? Comments below. What would you love to see? What sort of insights or activities and content would you like to see on the channel with the M3 Touring? I'd love to hear it, and we'll try our best to facilitate it for you. We've got you on tracking shot going that way, and then in the car we're like, whoa! It's really good.
I was keen to give it some
right
foot, you know.
Ah, brilliant, man. Well, on that tracking shot earlier, where we were all going, way, M3 Touring, that was these guys. But it's interesting because it's almost the identical spec, but the car that you guys are in have the like comfort pack, right?
Yeah. It's a little bit light on the tech features and no leather dash, so it's probably the base model is the light.
Okay. Yeah, but no, hop in and see what you think about how they feel.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, we could go back to Windies on this one. Well, actually, to tell you the truth of what's happening.
Right. Okay.
So my brother and a couple of friends are coming. It's my 40th birthday next week.
Oh, happy birthday!
We are renting M4s, M5s.
Yes.
We're driving from Munich down through the Dolomites to South Tyrol.
Wow.
Then we'll go, we've got a lad's drive day for about 6 hours around the mountains.
Phenomenal.
And then we'll go through, hopefully, the Grossglockner. Hopefully it's open.
Yes.
And we'll go through to Salzburg. And then we'll go to Red Bull Hangar 7.
Oh, mate.
For just a dirty perv on old
RV yeah.
So that's the trip.
Wow. That sounds like the dream trip. Yeah. We should probably take notes from this guy and then we'll go and do, that'll be really nice.
No, but you're joking. But people do have clock collections. One of the world's largest clock collectors is a Chubb client.
Are you serious?
Yeah, and I'm fascinated by it because my father-in-law was a horologist. So his house was covered in clocks from top to bottom. So
this is not scripted.
This is not.
This is real. I just caught him off guard.
Genuinely. Yeah, no. Clock insurance is a big. Like antiques and all that, of course. Well, fire protection's important because it's made of wood.
Pure wood. Yeah.
No, of course it would just be insured like any other clock.
Right.
If anything should happen to this beautiful piece of machinery, furniture, whatever you want to call it. I mean, that's the thing is, it's art. You know, it's useful. Definitely going in.
You're gonna go check out some clocks? You're gonna go and check out some clocks? The cuckoo clock? Yeah, brilliant.
Looking?
Yeah, there's some expensive clocks in there.
Really?
Oh man, next level. Yeah, it's pretty serious. To the Nürburgring after this, huh?
Nürburgring? No.
Yeah, no.
No.
Brilliant. Well, have a good time.
Okay.
Pleasure. Enjoy.
Bye.
Bye. Ciao, ciao. Well, there's a first time for everything, and that is the T-Rock Convertible Owners Club, ladies and gentlemen. The upshifts are actually as crisp as a twin clutch box. They are really impressive for a conventional auto. Brilliant. Downshifts, a tad sloppy. Not sloppy is a disservice. Not quite as crisp as a twin clutch. But for the platform, awesome. This is one of the most, just look up there, look at that stretch of tarmac. It's absolutely stunning. We've got loads of long sweeping, importantly positive camber corners like this, and it's quite rare to have something where you're traveling at good pace but you're also holding quite a sustained steering angle, and it's not something we often get, certainly not in the UK. So to be able to sort of feel this thing load up and sit on its squat for like a sustained period of time is super cool. The tarmac's so smooth that you could run full-on aero cars here, and if they had up here this sort of Pikes Peak type of thing, I mean, you could have a hell of a time.